This video is sponsored by NVIDIA AI. Ships have been getting bigger and bigger, to the point where cruise ships are more like floating cities than a means of nautical transport. But what happens when they break down? That's when you call in the big guns, a vessel large enough to carry any cargo in the world, including the world's largest cargo vessels. Essentially, you call a ship-carrying ship, or to be more precise, a semi-submersible heavy transport vessel. Half submarine, half boat. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the world's biggest. Called the Boka Vanguard, it's the largest of its type and frankly one of the largest single machines in the world. At a staggering 275 meters long with its 5 skyscraper tall towers, it's able to carry the largest seagoing vessels over 110,000 tons or entire oil rigs with ease. But how does this black magic work? And what's it like inside? Let's explore the giant ship, the Boka Vanguard. Sometimes when it comes to building a new type of transport ship, you need to approach it in a different way. I mean, look at this thing. It doesn't look anything like a ship or a boat that we grew up with. And that's the same game-changing argument that we should have when it comes to video creation and the new tools that we have today, such as the world's most used AI video creator, NVIDIA AI. You can now use AI as your perfect co-pilot. It starts with a simple text prompt. Say I want to do a 5-minute video on how ships are made, a British voiceover with lots of ship jokes and puns, and then voila, I have a full video made.
Building a ship was a labor of love, sweat, and probably a few splinters.
But wait, there's more. If you don't like it, you can then add subtitles, or you can translate the whole video into, say, Spanish to reach a new market. Or you can even clone your own voice, and then you don't have to spend hours recording and making mistakes like I do here with this microphone. NVIDIA AI is your personal sidekick, and they can create and edit videos using simple text prompts, and the AI does the heavy lifting to enable anyone and everyone to bring their ideas to life. You just get to be the director and the AI does the rest. It really is that simple and powerful, and I'm not the only one jumping on board. With over 10 million users across 150 countries, it's insanely popular. So if you want to join me, you can try NVIDIA AI for free, but if you're serious about video creation, then you should get a paid plan that just starts at $20 a month, which is the one that I have, and it will remove the watermark and give you access to voice cloning and high quality stock footage. Just go to the link down in the description and use my code FNE50 to get twice the number of video generation credits in your first month. Our story starts with a tale as old as time, the pursuit of money. Oil money to be exact. Oil companies who had been chasing after bigger and bigger gains in the rich underwater oil fields of the world realized that it was far easier to simply build the rigs in a dry dock than actually out at sea. The problem was how to get them there. Enter a company called Boskalis. They saw a market for a ship that could carry the largest floating oil rigs to their destinations, reducing time and the costs of transportation, and allowing rigs to be built economically in a shipyard instead of out at sea. But this new ship would have to be huge. Now, you see, heavy cargo ships were not a new idea, with the first being built back in the 1920s to transport cars to India. But creating one that could load such huge cargo would require special engineering. What sets this ship apart is its flat, open central deck. It's actually completely empty, with 5 large vertical wall-like structures protruding from its sides spaced around. These towers are actually anchor points and hold the essential equipment for the submerging process. But the biggest one here actually also holds the control bridge and the crew's living quarters. Imagine living in a skyscraper out at sea. The ship's awkward shape also hides a complex system of ballast tanks that makes it possible for it to become semi-submerged, with only the top of the vertical structures remaining over the water. Which, if you haven't seen it before, it's actually very strange. Different types of floating cargoes, including whole ships, can then slide onto its deck to be properly fastened. This is called the float-on operation. Once the cargo has been secured on the deck, the ballast tanks can then be emptied for the bottom of the ship to emerge again out of the water, lifting its heavy cargo upwards with it. It can then start its journey just like any other ship around the world. When it's arrived at its intended destination, the process is then reversed, which is called the float-off stage. The whole process works thanks to a very practical application of Archimedes' law that any body submerged in a fluid is acted upon by an upward force, with a magnitude equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the body, meaning that the whole oil rig can be lifted with ease and then moved. The floating on and off doesn't actually require anywhere as close to the energy required for similar operations done by a crane. And this system is exactly how the incredible Boka Vanguard is able to transport such vast cargo. But transporting oil rigs is not the only use of this machine.
Hey, Future Nick here. It's fascinating when you start to do research on this topic where you find out exactly how crazy the history is of heavy lift ships. Specifically, the really big ones have gone through some totally insane sequences. So, for example, there's the Mighty Servant 1, which was one of the very first heavy lift ships to be customly built for sort of transporting oil rigs. But then there's the Mighty Servant 2, which actually sank, and it was a complete write-off. Yes, this boat hit a giant pillar of granite underneath the water in Indonesia in 1999 and actually was totally destroyed. Then you have Mighty Servant 3, which was also sunk. Basically, in 2006, they made it go too deep. It went to 62 meters below sea level when it was trying to offload a drilling platform. And what's crazy about this one is they had to refloat it using giant air pumps and were able to restore it back to active service. Of course, then you've got the Black Marlin, which is a heavy lift ship, and you can see just how much it's actually able to carry. And then, of course, you've got the Blue Marlin, which is its sister ship. But what's fascinating about this one is that it has 38 cabins, a sauna, swimming facilities, and it also has a secure citadel for pirate attacks. And you're thinking, why would it need that when it got attacked by pirates in Equatorial Guinea? Which is absolutely insane. So I can't wait to see what happens to the latest big one, the Boka Vanguard, because I'm pretty sure it's got a very interesting history on its way. I also need to point out that this ship has a top speed of around 14 knots or 26 kilometers per hour when it doesn't have any cargo loaded on board. So why does this ship exist? Well, just like how every animal finds its own evolutionary niche, so did these vessels. For the oil industry, utilizing such a vessel makes sense when you consider money. Such ships can carry the rigs from their construction site to a drilling site at roughly 3 to 4 times the speed of a self-deploying rig. Rapid deployment of the rig to the drilling site can translate into major savings and incredible value for the shareholders. But it doesn't just stop there. The other most obvious use of the ship is shipping ships, either new large vessels that yet can't go under their own power, such as transporting a half-complete aircraft carrier to Australia, or rescuing cruise ships. A famous example was the Carnival Vista. Its propulsion system malfunctioned and it was left adrift in the Caribbean Ocean. Normally it could be towed to a dry dock, but a previous accident with a crane on a sister ship meant that the dock was occupied. We were called in such short notice that we managed to dispatch the ship quickly. It took a couple of weeks for our ship to get to the Caribbean from Europe and another week to take care of all the necessary arrangements. What followed was a very smooth operation and the cruise ship was safely transported to Freeport in the Bahamas. During this operation, part of the cruise ship's crew also remained on board whilst the ship rescued the cruise ship. As reported at the time from CNN. The ship is also capable of providing offshore dry docks facilities, allowing ships and floating oil rigs to be raised out of the water for inspection or maintenance without a break in production. Normally, when you need to do maintenance, you actually need to pull the vessel, or in this case the oil rig, away from the site for several months, making this ship pay for itself in a very short time. And lastly, it can also act as a construction platform for bridges or to facilitate dredging of canals. The vast flat space could be perfect for all sorts of attachments, and my mind can't also help but ponder a what-if military application of such a machine. Now, the US military already uses these types of vessels to rescue any naval ships that get trapped, but I'm also talking in a more offensive way. The ability to transport huge heavy items like stacks of tanks or even whole mobile fortresses makes the creative military mind salivate, and I'm sure that if we were in a stage where such a vessel could be commandeered by the US military, it would be put to work in quite an interesting way. But watch this space, because the team behind this monster ship is already planning a new one. And apparently, it's going to be even bigger.